Hello, my name is Alexandria Collins, and today I'm presenting a comparative look at the reproductive system across four vertebrate specimens: the perch, the frog, the bird, and the fetal pig. My goal is to explain how reproductive structures and strategies change across vertebrates and how these differences reflect evolution, environmental changes, and the need to protect developing embryos. The reproductive system is responsible for producing gametes, enabling fertilization, and supporting embryo development. Although every vertebrate reproduces, the way they do it can look very different depending on whether they live in water or on land. As vertebrates evolve, their reproductive system changed to improve the chances that offspring survive. This includes shifts like external to internal fertilization and the development of structures such as the amniotic egg and the placenta. These differences help us understand the major evolutionary steps vertebrates make as they moved from aquatic environments to terrestrial life. Starting with the perch, which represents fish, we see one of the simplest vertebrate reproductive systems. Perch have paired gonads but no complex ducts. Instead, eggs and sperm are released directly into the water through a genital opening. Fertilization is completely external. Both parents release their gametes into the water and the fertilization happens outside the body. Because there's a very little protection for the eggs, perch must produce extremely large numbers of gametes. This strategy works because the aquatic environment supports the eggs during early development. However, there is almost no parental care, so survival depends on sheer numbers. Frogs show the next step in vertebrate reproduction. They still rely on water like fish do, but their reproductive organs are more developed. Females have oviducts that produce a jelly like coating around the eggs, which helps keep them moist. Most frogs still use external fertilization and they rely on the behavior called emplexus, where the male clasps the female and positions himself to fertilize the eggs as they are laid. Compared to fish, frog eggs have more protection, but they still must remain in a wet environment or they will dry out. Frogs represent the transitional stage, partly adapted to land but still dependent on water for reproduction. Birds show a major evolutionary leap. They reproduce entirely on land and use internal fertilization. Female birds typically have one functional ovary, which reduces body weight for flight. After fertilization, the egg travels through a long oviduct where it receives layers such as embryon membranes and finally a hard shell. The hard shelled amniotic egg is a major evolutionary adaptation. It protects the embryo from drying out, supports gas exchange, and allows development on land without needing water. Birds produce fewer eggs than fish or amphibians, but the eggs are more protected and have a higher survival rate. In mammals, like the fetal pig, reproduction becomes internal in almost every way. Fertilization occurs inside the reproductive tract and the embryo develops within the uterus. One of the most important structures is the placenta, which connects the fetus to the mother and allows nutrient exchange, oxygen delivery, waste removal, and protection. Because the embryo develops internally, mammals generally have fewer offspring, but each receives much more investment and has a higher chance of survival. This represents the highest level of reproductive specialization among vertebrates. When all four animals are compared, we can see clear evolutionary patterns. The perch and the frog rely on external fertilization, which requires water and produces many eggs with low survival. Birds and mammals use internal fertilization, which increases control and protection. Embryo development also becomes progressively more protected. From exposed aquatic eggs to jelly coated eggs to hard shell amniotic eggs, and finally to internal gestation supported by the placenta. These trends show the shift from water dependent reproduction to land based strategies that increase reproductive success. Across vertebrate evolution, reproduction becomes more specialized and better suited to terrestrial environments. We see major transitions such as external to internal fertilization, the development of protective egg layers, and the emergence of internal gestation. These changes also parallel other evolutionary shifts. For example, the move from gills to lungs and from fully aquatic animals to land dwelling species. Each adaptation increases embryo survival and allows vertebrates to reproduce successfully in a wider range of environments. In conclusion, comparing reproductive systems across the perch, frog, bird, and fetal pig shows how deeply reproduction is shaped by environment and evolutionary history. Fish and amphibians depend on water and produce many offspring with little protection. Birds and mammals invest more in each embryo and have systems designed to protect, nourish, and support development. These structures help us understand how vertebrates gradually adapted to life on land, and evolved increasingly complex strategies to ensure the survival of their species. These are the sources I use for my presentation. Thank you for listening.